Sy boek se naam is Slaying the Dragon. Hy is 'n sakeman en nou ook 'n topverkoper, skrywer en hy's vandag ons gas in die ateljee, Antonio Iozzo. Baie welkom. Antonio, it's a wonderful story about resilience and perseverance, but it didn't start out like that. Tell us about what gave rise to the book.
I think what gave rise to the book is when I was in the depth of my addiction and how I was looking for a solution on how to get off those painkillers, get off the opioids. I really didn't find a solution. I mean, I went to the rehabs, but when you start investigating, you start to understand that a rehab transfers you from one drug onto another drug. You don't really leave clean. And once I figured out a solution on how to get off, I really wanted to write a book and actually tell people my story and give them almost a step-by-step guide on how to get off these drugs.
Yeah, but it was a horrible accident that brought you to that point of addiction. If you don't mind me talking about it, I mean, 14 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and I don't know what else, a host of other things. Just if you can take us back to that moment.
So I started racing superbikes quite later on in life, probably at about the age of 35. And I was racing in a South African series called the Battle of the Twins. And I'd just come back from overseas and I had a race in Cape Town. And I'd never raced at the Killarney circuit in Cape Town. And I was battling to learn the track. And the only races that I was racing against were Cape Townian races. And before your race, you have something called the warm-up lap. And one of my friends was at the track with me and I asked him to go out in front of me and give me a tow, which is if you've got a faster rider, he almost shows you the lines through the track. And the thing is, we went out of the pits and he like sped up and he was like really far ahead of me. And if you know Killarney racetrack, there's a double right-hand bend onto the high-speed straight. And I tried to catch him, but by the time I did catch him, I was going too fast for the corner. And I decided, I knew I was going to run off the track and I knew I was going to crash. So when you hit the gravel, if you want to put your bike down, you hit the front brakes and your bike normally washes out. And you and your bike never normally travel in the same direction. This was a freak accident. I slid and I hit the barrier and the bike just slid directly into my back.
Yeah. The moment that you realized you were in big trouble, did you have that my life is flashing before me experience?
So I didn't realize I was in big trouble for a long time.
Yeah.
So I had this pain in my ribs as soon as the crash happened. And the marshals came rushing to me. And all they wanted to do was try and get me off the track as quick as possible because they wanted the race to start. And then all of a sudden, this pain transferred to my back, and I knew something was wrong. So I think my saving grace was that I wasn't unconscious. And I told them I'm not moving. I said, call the paramedics, get the back brace, something's wrong. So they cut my suit off on the side of the track, got into the ambulance. My son was also racing, so at the time he was about 15. And so I stayed in the ambulance to watch his race. I listened to it on my phone.
You were a real dad.
And then I let them take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
But even at that point, I didn't really know, I didn't think I was badly injured. In the emergency rooms, the first doctors took x-rays and the doctor came up to me and he said, listen, you're not that bad. You might have a slight fracture on your spine. We could put you in a back brace, but you should be out of here today still. So I phoned my wife and I said, listen, it's not bad. Don't stress, everything looks okay, I'll keep you updated. From the x-ray, they sent me to a CT scan. After the CT scan, he said, no, listen, we're going to have to book you in. Definitely think you're going to give you a back brace, but we need to do some other checks. I phoned my wife again, I'll give her the update. She's already not sounding like too comfortable, but I'm still telling her there's no need to fly down to Cape Town, everything's still going to be okay. While I'm in ICU, because they checked me into ICU, in walks this guy. Now ICU's got a lot of patients. You're not in your own room. ICU's filled with all the patients that need to be there. And he looks like a boer. He's khaki shorts, khaki shirt, his khaki socks. And he walks straight up to me and I'm thinking, he's obviously got the wrong person. I don't know this guy. And he says to me, hello Antonio, my name is Ati Bota. You are in a terrible condition. We are not sure why you're not paralyzed. You fractured your T7 vertebra very badly. You've broken 14 ribs. You punctured both lungs. And we're going to be going into emergency surgery tomorrow. And I can't guarantee how it's going to turn out.
It did turn out not immediately pretty well. You went through quite some deep depths of despair, but here you are today, and we're going to continue talking about that.
Herontdek die ongelooflike skoonheid van Suid-Afrika. Begin jou reis met 'n Easy Shuttle. Kontak Easy Shuttle vir navrae en besprekings wêreldwyd.
Ek gesels verder met Antonio Iozzo. Antonio, terrible accident, terrible prognosis, then the addiction to the pain medication that you were prescribed started. And at the same time, you are running a multi-billion rand business.
Yeah.
So how did you keep all of that together and hide it from everybody?
I think my saving grace is that my personality is that when things start going wrong, I actually take on more responsibility. Probably not to actually think about the real problems, which was that my body was really in a bad shape and that I had this addiction that I really couldn't kick. So I threw myself into my work and I really did put up a real big facade. I mean, no one really knew the depression.
Your family, your wife?
She knew I was addicted to the painkillers. She never knew how many I used to take. I mean, in a day, in my worst state, I could take about 3-4 boxes, which is about 80 tablets. I used to change my clothes about 3-4 times a day from the sweats, from the withdrawals. And it was a big mess. I mean, but no one knew. Probably the person that knew the most was my PA, because I used to keep my door closed while I was in my worst state, and then I'd open it up when I was on the tablets, which sort of normalized me. And when I got home, I mean, my wife used to ask me, how was your day? I used to say, no, it was busy, things are going okay. I don't think she would have coped if I had told her I thought about committing suicide 3 times. I changed my clothes from body sweats 3 times, and I'm totally depressed and I want to kill myself. I mean, no one wants to hear that.
This whole experience, do you think that it has given you more empathy for people with addiction problems and with mental health issues?
Most definitely. I mean, one clear example is I had a guy working for me in my gym and he was bipolar. And I could never understand when he came to work and he used to tell me that he's not feeling well and he's not happy. And in the beginning I was under the impression, I said, no, you choose happiness. You wake up in the morning and you choose to be happy. And what I soon realized is that happiness is really a chemical and it's governed by your brain. And if that chemical is off, doesn't matter how good your life is, you're not going to be happy. And he was the first person I went to go and apologize to actually tell him I didn't actually realize how bad mental health can be and that you're actually not in control of it.
Yeah, and so you became a different leader, you think?
I think my telltale sign in business was that you might catch me in a bad mood depending on where I was in my up and down cycle of the withdrawals. Definitely changed my perspective on how to run my business. I really wanted to change the culture of my business afterwards, and I wanted to run my business more like a family and really take care of my staff. I wanted them to embrace health and wellness and really just to love life. And you could be here 1 minute and you really could be gone the next.
Well, we are so glad that you're here today to share the story with us. It's a phenomenal story. Thank you.
Ons gesels verder met ons gas Antonio Iozzo. Daar had ek dit nou reg gesê uiteindelik. So, you spoke to Charlene about hiding this thing from your family, from your wife. I suppose you mentioned changing clothes and doing all those things. What drove that? Did you feel ashamed? What was the story behind that?
I think when it came to my family, I didn't want my family to worry. When it came to the office, I didn't really want to show as a business leader that I was anyway less able to do my job. And I think, yes, there is definitely a portion where you are ashamed that you are actually addicted to something that you actually have no way of getting off. And it definitely is quite a downward spiral. And what I soon realized is that drug addiction is quite a lonely path. Sure. And even though you might have a lot of support around you, because you're the one going through it, and you really need to be the one to decide that you really want to find a way off.
Wow.
It's tough. You know, I think the negative thoughts and the depression, I think, is what has really got to me.
So what was that thing that made you decide, okay, I'm gonna tell everyone, I'm gonna come clean with this?
So I had probably tried about 40 times during the 3-4 year process to actually get off. and you start and you look up on the internet and that you can taper off, and you try and taper, and eventually you get down to a certain point, but you're so depressed, and then you think, well, let me just take a couple of tablets extra. Let me just feel normal, and then I'll try again.
Yeah.
And after you take those tablets, nothing really happens, but then you're almost back to square one again.
Yeah.
And we had just gone away on a holiday to Austria, and if you understand Oxy, you become the biggest clock watcher. When you take it, when it works, when it's not working. And on holiday, another symptom arrived, which was anxiety, which I'd never ever had. When I came back from this holiday, I was basically just mentally fatigued from all the trying and from all the failing and from obviously hiding it. And I decided to call my exco and my senior management team into the boardroom. And they were the first guys that I told.
Wow.
And I really just broke down. I was crying. I told them what had happened from the beginning to the end, how the addiction had got hold of me, how I hadn't been able to kick it, how I'd been hiding it. And at the end of it, I mean, they were all crying, but it was a big weight that got lifted off where you don't have to hide. And then I started the process of figuring out how do I actually get off the stuff, because what I was doing wasn't working.
So what was that? What was your first step doing this now?
So I was really, really fortunate. I'd gone to my GP a couple of months before, and I'd asked him for a pain doctor, someone that could help me, because I'd looked at the rehabs, and the rehabs were actually transferring me onto more opioids, just different opioids.
Sure.
And I got back from the holiday, and my PA said, listen, you know that appointment we made 3 months ago, that psychiatrist, it's on Tuesday. And I was so depressed, I said, no, cancel it. I don't need to talk to a psychiatrist. I know what my problems are. And she actually forced me to go. And when I went to this woman, I told her my story, and she transferred me from the oxycodone onto a buprenorphine patch, which is something that stabilizes you. It's still an opioid. And she started weaning me off the patch over a period of weeks. The problem was that when I got down to 15 milligrams, and these patches only come in a 5, a 10, and a 20, when I pulled the 5 milligram patch off, I went straight into withdrawals. And I called up and I said, listen, it's not working, I can't, because I basically cut 30% of the dosage. And when I went to go see her, she said, oh no, you don't actually get off. You are now have reached the minimum dosage, and now you just stay on these patches for life. And I said, but what do you mean stay on it for life? She said, no, you don't actually get off, it's too hard to get off.
Sure.
And I went back home and I was really depressed, and I thought there's no ways I'm staying on the stuff. So I started measuring the contact strip with my ruler, and I figured out what 1 mil on the contact strip was in dosage, and over a period of 14 months, I cut this patch.
Wow.
And I managed to wean myself off. Yeah.
Fascinating, heavy stuff. Thanks for sharing this, Antonio.
My beurt om met Antonio Iozzo te gesels.
Ja.
How's that now for the
Very
program?
good.
Die pizza man.
You got it right.
The pizza. But that's how you started, not?
That's exactly where I started.
Tell us how did it start?
My dad was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 12. And to help my mom out in the house, me and my put needed to go and get a job. And my mom actually found me a job at a pizza restaurant when I was 15 in Kensington in Johannesburg. And that's where I started making pizzas at the age of 15.
Are you still good at making pizzas?
I make pizzas all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're going to invite us? You can come and sort of... Corley is quite good with making anything. I mean, but one day you two can make a pizza for us.
I love cooking.
Which one do you like? Pizza of what? Like a margarita?
It's called Diavola.
Diavola.
It's with salami, ham, and bacon.
Yeah.
And chili, garlic.
I like the chili pot.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to ask you something about this addiction stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
What is it like to get this withdrawal symptoms? What do you experience?
Okay, so withdrawals, you get the body sweats and the body aches.
Yeah.
But for me, the worst was the depression. Because it affects your serotonin and your dopamine levels in your brain, which are your happy drugs.
So you feel down?
Not just down.
You feel unhappy?
Not just unhappy. You don't want to live. So if you can picture that you've got nothing to be unhappy about, your business is going well, your family is healthy, and all you want to actually do is die.
So, but do you have a craving? Is it like a hunger?
No, it's
not. Is it like a thirst? Or what
no, it's not a thirst. It's just that you're not right in your head, and you know that your chemicals are not right. And so that's what gets you taking the tablets. In the beginning, you take the tablets because it gives you a slight happy feeling, which lasts about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
in the end, you're taking the tablet just to try and feel normal, but you never do.
And you need to keep on taking more and more and more. Is that so?
Well, your body gets used to the dosage.
Okay. So you have to sort of up it.
You start upping it. So there's a term with heroin addiction called chasing the dragon. And chasing the dragon is chasing that happy feeling. Oxy is exactly like heroin. It's just legal version of heroin.
Well, oxy stands for?
Oxycodone.
Oxycodone. And that's one of those family of heroin
It's
drugs.
a family of opioids.
Opioids.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, have you been to rehab centers? You've been to rehab?
I went to go and look at them. I didn't go to them.
Oh, is it? Why is that?
Because I had been prescribed the drugs already that they put you onto.
Okay.
So when you understand a rehab, when someone comes out of being clean from being a heroin addict and they say they're off heroin,
Yeah.
you're off heroin, but they put you on something called methadone. So you're never actually clean off. They just move you from one drug onto another drug. I didn't want to be on a drug. I wanted to actually be off.
Ontbytsake word met trots gevlieg deur FlySafair. Besoek flysafair.co.za en gebruik hulle laagkoste soekfunksie vir die mees bekostigbare vlugte na al die groot stede in Suid-Afrika en verder. FlySafair vir die liefde van vlieg.
Ek gesels dan verder met Antonio. So you explained to Leon how you got through the whole process
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eventually got weaned from this. But was there a morning that you got up and said, listen, I got it?
So the day I pulled the last little sliver of patch off my arm was a good day. 18th of May 2022.
All right, and you knew that's going to be the end.
Well, that was the beginning of something new.
But you still, do you still experience pain after your...
Every day.
Okay, so how do you manage that then?
The body is the most amazing thing. You learn to live with pain. So,
Yeah.
if 0 is no pain and 10 is the worst pain you can take, I probably range between a 3 and a 6 every day, just depending on how much I stand, how
Is
much I
that your
sit.
back pain mostly?
Yeah, it's all spasms, back spasms, back knots. I got a physiotherapist that comes to my office 3 times a week for about an hour and a half at a time. A lot of dry needling, a lot of massage. Like I was saying to you, I do gym about 3 to 4 hours every day.
And I can see you're a bit of a kraghappie, hey?
I am.
Tell me about your businesses. So you started off with a pizza business, is that it?
So,
And today you're a bit of a gazillionaire or something, eh?
yeah, I started off, I opened my first restaurant when I qualified as a chef. And
Oh, you're a qualified chef?
I am a qualified chef.
Okay, now, Corley, watch out for you. Pas op.
My mom took all her pension and took extra money on the bond, and we opened a restaurant in Cresta. 9 months later, it went under, and I had the heavies from the bottle store come and beat me up because we couldn't pay them. My mom lost the house and the furniture.
Wow.
And then I ended up at Incredible Connection doing demonstrations, and then I was at a call center for Hyundai. If you took your car for service, I'd ask you the 10 special questions. And then by the off chance, I ended up at an insurance brokerage in Kempton Park. And 3 years later, started my own insurance brokerage. And then IUM was really birthed out of the brokerage.
So how many people work for you?
About 500.
500 people. How long did it take you to build up that business?
20 years.
Do you have two things that I see here. In business, you ran the whole thing into the ground. You bankrupted yourself and your mother, it seems.
Yeah.
But you built it up thereafter.
Yeah.
Today you've got a thriving business. And the same, you got into this accident.
Yeah.
You became a junkie. And
Yeah.
you got out of it. And
Yeah.
today you're a bit of a kraghappie and a successful businessman. There's something there. There's a lesson there. What's the lesson here?
I think in my life, consistency has been a big part. And I really have adopted this principle. I never knew what it was when I adopted it. But this thing of continual improvement, in Japanese it's called kaizen, where you just need to have continual improvement in your life, in your work, whatever you do. And that's really incremental improvement in whatever I do and staying the course. I take a lot of risk. You don't build a big business without taking risk.
Yeah.
And taking risk has got me my motorcycle accident too, and skiing accidents in Austria. So there's pros and there's cons to taking risk.
Yeah, risk. You can build something, but you can get hurt in the process as well. But your son is also a motorbike.
Yeah, he races. He's been racing overseas for 7 years. I've got my own racing team in Spain. And he's done really, really well. My wife was definitely not happy with him racing, definitely after my accident. But he's chased his passion, but he's coming back. He's going to start working in the business now. So he's had a good racing career. And now it's time for a change for him too.
Antonio, Iozzo, how's that?
Yeah, very good.
Starting off with a pizza man, bankrupted the business, got in an accident, got a junkie, got all of our, today a successful businessman and fit and healthy.
Yeah.
It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.